This is a giant Lego private island, and in this video I'm going to make a massive mansion with lots of mechanical features on it. Then at the end I'm going to test them all out to see if they're really worth it. First I'll need to build a giant Lego mansion. I was thinking a little bit bigger than that. But before we can get started on the house, we need a way for our rich billionaires to get their supercars across to the island, so I'll build a bridge here. Okay, nice. And if it's an island mansion, we also need a yacht, so I bought this Lego set. And now we can sail all the way around the island. Except we can't because of this ugly, boring stationary bridge. So let's build the first mechanism, a working drawbridge. The rotation of this motor is way too fast to use by itself, so I'll use a worm gear which will reduce the rotation by 24 times. It also has a side benefit since the worm gear can only be used as the driver gear and can't be pushed back on itself, so when the weight of the bridge is lifting, it won't constantly be trying to push back on the motor. Then to motorize it, I'll use this bracket that can hold bevel gears, which will reduce the speed of the motor even more and will put it under the road rather than beside it to be hidden better. But it could still be a tiny bit slower, and with the addition of another bevel gear joint, I think it's perfect. Speed may not seem very different, but you can see here it actually is slower. Then I'll add it to the mansion with some masonry bricks and some white arches. I also added these suspension cables which aren't necessary at all, but look really cool. But if you're the owner of a private island, you don't just want to drive your cars to it, you also want a cool way to display them. So next I'm going to build a garage. But just having a straight bit of road would mean having to back across the bridge when you leave. So I'll build a turntable out front which will rotate the cars. This is also a good time to mention, not everything I build is actually the first idea. Like originally I was going to have a self-parking driveway using tons of these treads like this to automatically pull the cars into the garage. I spent about 4 hours building this whole thing, but it was so pointless and boring that I switched to building the turntable. So, using this round gear piece here with some other Technic parts and a chain driven by another motor, I can make it spin. And with this roundish plate on top, the cars can pull onto it, rotate, and drive away. Or, if you want your electricity bill to be even higher, you can leave it running all the time just to look extra cool. But before yet another mechanism time, this video is sponsored by War Thunder, which is quite literally the biggest vehicle combat game ever, and it's now available free on PC and console. Just like how LEGO has made hundreds upon hundreds of vehicles, War Thunder has done the same in-game with their over 2,500 accurate tanks, planes, ships, and helicopters from 10 major nations, spanning over 100 years, even including more obscure vehicles like biplanes and armored cars. You know those battles you used to have as a kid with your LEGO bricks? Well, War Thunder is an insanely detailed and realistic version of that, except rather than just you on the floor in your bedroom, there's 70 million other players to engage in epic PvP battles, plus all of the vehicles are custom modeled to act and react exactly like their real world counterpart. There's no basic hitboxes and their strength is relative to whatever armor they would have in real life. Just like how LEGO offers lots of different themes like LEGO City, LEGO Star Wars, and LEGO Friends, War Thunder provides 3 unique game modes to help you find your place in the game. I personally like that no money has to be spent on extra equipment, as every vehicle is made to be played with a mouse and keyboard. And before I go back to building my mechanisms, you'll be excited to know that you can play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox now by using my link in the top comment or video description. New and returning players that haven't played in 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across all platforms. It includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of a premium account, so don't miss your chance. Expensive mansions often have extravagant entryways and front yards, so I'll do the same first by adding some white and red marble tiles in the front, as well as an angled set of stairs that will eventually lead to the front doors. I also used a gray minifigure with silver armor pieces to make a statue above this little pond. Then we can start laying out the footprint of the house. First, I'll use these orange masonry bricks to build out one room with these tall windows and tan frames. Then, since I don't want it to just be one big colored box, I'll add these sections using gray masonry bricks with some snot bricks to eventually add plant pieces. And at the top, I took inspiration from castles and added a bit of an outcropping for more detail. I love houses that have massive windows and a good view, so I'll use a bunch of these pieces and make a wraparound window that looks out over the water. That's perfect, and a bit of the house is complete, but I still want to add more mechanisms. Some personal boat docks have underwater lifts that raise the boat out of the water when they aren't in use, so I'm going to try and build one of those myself for the yacht. This LEGO piano set comes with a bench with this scissor lift mechanism, and I think if I scale it up and make it stronger, it could work well for the boat lift. These 2 rails here will guide the lift arms, and in the middle I'll add a worm gear which, when spun, will raise and lower the lift by sliding the arms closer and further apart. But even though it theoretically works, it's not very smooth, and since I can't put it below the surface of the water, it's not really realistic. So instead, I tried a new mechanism that uses a rack and pinion to lift and lower 2 angled beams on the side. This way the boat can enter on the surface level of the water, and these angled pieces fit the contour of the sides of the boat so that it lifts it up but doesn't interfere with it when it's in the water. I built it with these gear racks and some rails to hold everything in place. It took a bit of trial and error, but these blue gears are the perfect size to engage with the gear racks. And now we can test it. It's a little janky, but it definitely gets the job done. But before I build another mechanism, I want to build the majority of the rest of the mansion. First, I'll add another big section of windows on the other side that look out over the rotating car pad. Then I'll build another orange section with more bricks, and this time a horizontal window to contrast the tall ones on the other side. I want this mansion to be fairly modern in some parts, but also have some character. So for the center and front part, I decided to bake a 2-story black box. That's honestly the best description I could come up with. First, I'll build a roof over the top of all the 1-story parts. Then I'll add a ridge along the edge of the parts that won't have a second story. Then I started building the middle part with even more windows, and a second story that is basically entirely just black bricks and windows. Okay, so far so good, but I don't want to have to tile the entire roof, so I built it sideways using black bricks and brackets and set it on top. Okay, that works super well. Now, before moving on to the outside of the island and even building a working elevator, I'll finish the actual mansion itself with 2 more second story sections with plant roofs and vines growing up the walls of some of the gray parts. Rich people also have pristine lawns, so I use these tiles to make it look like it's striped, like the real world ones. We also need to clean up the entryway area, so I connected the front door to the stairway using some bricks and tiles. And finally, before adding all the outdoor details, I want to add one last mechanism, something that even most mansions don't have, an elevator right here to go from the 1st to 2nd floor. There's many ways to build an elevator, but I want this one to be mostly transparent so it looks like it's made of glass, which means the actual mechanism itself needs to be relatively low profile. I'll use a winch to lift and lower the elevator car, and to not have anything complicated at the top, I'll make the cable wind up and over, which sets the crank at the bottom rather than at the top. Then, to stop the car from freely hanging, I'll add rails for it to be guided by. Then we can slide the car itself into place, and wow, a working elevator for the private island. And now that the whole house and every mechanism is built, I'm going to detail the front. On this side, I'll add a tennis court with green tiles, a spike ball net, and some plants. Then on the other side, I'll build a swimming pool and spa that overlooks the water with a ton of these 1x2 trans blue tiles for the water inside the pools. Then we can place some beach chairs, umbrellas, and towels by the side for the owners of the house to relax on. And finally, the private island mansion is finally complete with many working functions. And now that it's all complete, let's look at all the mechanisms. First, we have the drawbridge, which can raise up and go all the way back down. Then we have the car spinner, can go both directions. That means you can drive forward and not just have to back up. Then we have the boat loader, which I can't do with one hand, but you saw it. Finally, a literal functioning elevator. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to play for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox using the link below, and claim your limited time bonus pack to boost you in the game, available for new and returning players who haven't played for at least 6 months. Now all you have to do is subscribe while I list it on Zillow and see how much I can sell it for.